2012. It basically does two things. We provide consultancy services for small and medium-sized businesses, and we just help to put in place processes and systems that builds business confidence. Yeah, actually, there's an interesting story to how I started. I was actually doing a PhD in quality management systems, which is what I do, and my previous employers actually sent me on a job in China. And on my way back, when I got into the aircraft, I met this man, probably in his 40s, and we were, well, the first thing was everybody, all the hostesses and everybody actually knew him. They were very familiar with him. And even the pilot came and said hi. So I looked at him, I said, man, who are you? And he told me he was a business person from Australia. He goes to China to pick up laminate floors and sell. So we started talking about business. I told him I had ideas and plans about it. And then at some point, he found out that I was doing a PhD, and he looked at me, and I hadn't felt as foolish as that ever before. I said, so you have all these enterprise plans, why are you doing a PhD? And I think that was kind of the first awakening, that really if I want to do this, I better get started doing it. So there was a movement around happening in my company at that point, and I just decided that maybe it's about time to actually start out. The good thing, and this is always the key challenge for the new person, is getting that first client. In my particular case, the first client I got was actually my previous employers. And these are some of the challenges that you face, because it's easier to get started with the people who kind of know you. They couldn't employ me directly as an associate, so we got registered as a limited liability company, and that meant that they could give me work to do. So that's really the first thing that got started. But within those about 3 months before leaving, everybody that knew me that was in our network, I made them know exactly what I was planning to do. But the reality is, and this is where many starters actually give up, it usually takes about 6 months to a year before people really begin to digest the fact that you're not actually in business and doing things. From this, you might have an organization that wants to bid for public sector contracts. If they do not have these international standards, they are unable to compete, or if they are competing with an equal sized company and that other company has the international standards, then those companies get the business. So in terms of making individual small and medium sized businesses more competitive, that's what we think that we do, giving them the edge over their immediate competition all across the Northwest. Industry of consulting, things have been done in exactly the same way for about 20-30 years. We are taking advantage of being open a bit more to technology, rethinking that process is actually helping us to differentiate ourselves in the marketplace, and that's the real journey. Once you're able to differentiate yourself in the marketplace and add value, success is quite likely to follow. Usually when you hear of businesses and people think, you think of the salesman, I cannot sell, so I can't be there. I'm not the typical salesman, but once you become quite comfortable with who you are, people buy initially who you are. And it's amazing how being at ease with yourself actually comes across in so many ways. So I don't think it's because of the successes kind of linked to who I was, but being able to daily face those challenges, keep a calm head, and push things forward. I think that's about one of the more critical things. And I always say that if you start a business, you must always think of yourself being there in at least 3 years' time. So if you start doing something now, and you can't think of or envision yourself being there in 3 years' time, you've not even started. And that's basic, because there's a very high percentage of businesses that fail within the first year, within 3 years, 5 years, and then 7 years is another measure. So I think it's just learning, continuing to develop yourself. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago, so it's not so much about who I am, but how I've chosen to kind of adapt to the situation and cope with the different challenges that you face as you go on in trying to achieve something. You got to be very, very resilient. Okay, sometimes it's not everybody that comes off resilient. Sometimes you learn resilience. I'm actually learning resilience here. I didn't have to deal with that when I was in employment or prior to that. You got to learn resilience. You got to be calm and cool-headed and be able to kind of just read the market and be able to listen to the customer in that sense. Of course, you must have some significant level of ambition, not necessarily satisfied with what's going on. And more importantly, that market insight, I think I'll put it in general terms, because you got to find an opportunity. You can't even go to a place where people are already doing the same thing. You know, you always hear, or find a unique product. It's not so much of a unique product or a unique service. It's taking a standard product or service and presenting it in a unique way. And it's, in fact, research has actually shown that the market is less likely to take on something that is totally new, but something that has evolved, that is a bit better than something they already know, is actually what works well. So that ability to kind of analyze that and commit to continually improving and continually developing yourself. Because I came in with my skill set in ISO, I had to learn everything about business. You read books, you go to websites, you register on courses, you go to masterminding groups, you go to networking, you listen to the people that you actually want to be. Richard Branson doesn't know me, but I follow pretty much everything that he does. And all these things, you keep on challenging yourself, spend more time with people who know more than you, as against idling around, with people who don't necessarily develop. Take even more risk than I've taken within the last 5 years, although starting out itself is a risk enough. Take a bit more risk, learn faster, and you never learn while you're seated in the office or while you're seated on your computer. Every single time you face a customer, that's when you actually learn, or a potential customer. So you can increase that process by always being out there on the front end. You learn a lot faster, you develop a lot faster, invest financially in your own personal and professional development. And of course, when you have a team, you also have to, as much as possible, help to develop them as quickly as possible, because you are only as good as the team that you have. So I think investing in development, and I define development by being out there, meeting the customers, being on the front end, is quite critical to what I should have probably done a bit faster. So I will hope that if I were to start something else quite differently, now what I did in 5 years, I'd like to be able to do it in 3 years, because you wouldn't want to, you hope to kind of get better. When I started, I thought we'll be finished and fully designed in about 5 years. Now I'm putting that about 7 to 8 years, but whatever the next thing is, we've got to bring down the half-life of that.